City Council. Roll call, please.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Baylor. Mosley.
Aye.
All committee members are present except for Councilwoman Baylor.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the previously held meeting.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Very good. The ayes have it.
Just a note, Mr. Chair, Councilwoman Baylor has joined.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. We'd also, before we get into the public hearings, I'd like to welcome our new planning director here. Mr. Tatum is with us here. So welcome, Mr. Tatum. Thank you. Thank you. With that, we have two items that are up for a public hearing this afternoon. And the procedures for the public hearings are, we will first read in the conditional use request. And then what we'll do is we will receive a description, a report from the planning committee or from the planning department about the conditional use request or whatever the item is up for a public hearing. After that, we'll ask the clerk of council to swear in all those individuals that wish to testify before the committee. And then we'll open up the public hearing, ask for testimony in reference to the conditional use to that subject matter only. And after that, we'll close the public hearing portion, open up to questions from the committee members, and then questions from council members, should there be any. And that's the procedure. Tonight, we'll basically repeat the whole process again this evening at 7 o'clock. The only difference is that council will then make a report or develop a report to all of council, either in favor, against, or to table, take time on an item. So those are the procedures that we'll recognize today. And the first item, Ms. Biviano, could you please read it into the record?
Item number 1 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to vary the side yard area requirement to construct a garage at 70 East Dresden Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Antonucci.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. David McCurry is requesting permission to vary the setback for a new detached garage in the side yard of the property. The current garage, constructed in the early 1900s, is stated by the petitioner to be leaning, the floor is cracked and sinking, and the foundation is crumbling. Petitioner is proposing to construct a new 20-foot by 24-foot garage in its place. Due to the difficult geography of the property, the petitioner's request is that the 5-foot setback for an accessory structure be varied by 2 feet, so the garage will be only 3 feet from the east property line. The proposed garage would not be out of character for the neighborhood, nor should it have a negative impact on neighboring properties. The variance of 2 feet from the property line will allow the petitioner to maximize the property and retain rear yard area open space while without increasing the density of structures within the neighborhood. The new garage will help to enhance the viability of the property and the surrounding neighborhood. If the petitioner can meet the building code requirements for distances from other structures, the Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval.
Thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, I'll ask if there's anyone here wishing to testify in reference to this to please be sworn in by our clerk, Ms. Biviano.
Could you please raise your right hand if you're here to speak on this? Okay.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much. Well, with that, we will procedurally open up the public hearing and ask if there's any comments in reference to the conditional use request on Dresden. Is there any comments? Any comments? Hearing or seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion. Open up to any council members on the committee that may have questions or comments. Any council members overall that may have questions or comments? Mr. Kamer, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to let the committee know that I support this. David's a great neighbor, great resident in Ward 7, and we've talked on the phone a few times about the process, and he's great in communication, and I support this, so appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, very good. Hearing none, we will now move on to the next item and invite you back this evening at 7 o'clock. The committee will then make a recommendation to all of council. Thank you. Thank you for attending this afternoon. The next item, Ms. Viviano.
Item number 2 is an ordinance amending or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153 Zoning Code, Article 8, on-premises exterior signs, and Article 11, Board of Zoning Appeals regarding ground signs in residential areas and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Antonucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. The city is proposing to make minor updates to the requirements regarding ground signs in residential districts. The proposed changes would allow community institutions such as schools, parks, churches, and neighborhood community centers located in residential districts to install modestly sized ground signs in the front yard. Under the current zoning code, ground signs for non-dwelling uses in residential districts are only allowed behind the building line. Locating a ground sign behind a building line can often be impractical for a church, school, or park, for example, because it does not allow for enough visibility of the sign. As a result, these institutions often request a variance to locate the sign within the front yard setback. The proposed text changes align the requirements for community institutions with the requirements that apply to establishments in business districts. Ground signs will still be restricted in height and located a minimum distance from the right-of-way so as not to obstruct the necessary view of traffic at the street. In addition, the proposed text change slightly increases the allowable area for a non-dwelling sign in a residential district. The proposed change increases the allowable sign from 30 square feet to 32 square feet. 32 square feet is a typical 4-foot by 8-foot size of many signage panel materials used by sign fabricators. So this change will be in alignment with typical industry standards or practices. Currently, applicants who request this minor size variation must go through conditional use process. Internally illuminated signs in electronic message centers in a residential district will still be required to be reviewed by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The City of Akron planning staff believe the proposed changes will not have a negative impact on the character of residential neighborhoods. These changes will help the city to achieve its goal of providing clear, predictable, and streamlined services to its constituents. The Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. I'll ask if there's anyone here wishing to testify before the committee. Be sworn in by Sarah Biviano, the Clerk of Council. Anyone here wishing to testify? Anybody? Okay. Seeing none, we will still open up the public hearing, ask if there's any comments. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Very good. We'll close the public hearing portion. We'll open up to any committee members who may have questions or comments. Any committee members, any council members that may have questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move on to the balance of the agenda at this time. Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. The next item is item number 3. This is reference to Consolidated Action Plan, including the application certifications for the Community Development Block Grant, the Home Funding Partnership, Emergency Solutions Grant, etc. I know there's some questions or comments. I do see Helen Tomic is online. Ms. Tomic, any comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We have received a couple of comments from some council members. I believe those have been addressed. I have not heard anything from other folks from last week.
Okay, very good. Any questions or comments from anyone? Is the consent agenda okay on this one?
That'll work, thank you.
That's okay? Okay, very good. I'd like to entertain a motion for consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Very good, the ayes have it. Gonna recommend we take time on 4 through and including 8, I believe. Yes. And on item number 9, this is the one, to refresh the committee's memory. This is the one that was the dumpster business located at 1029 West Waterloo Road. I know the ward council person, Mr. Freeman, is against this. A couple of the neighbors came out and they had some problems with it. I drove by, I think a couple members drove by. I think this is a bad idea for this area, so therefore I would, if there's any questions or comments, I believe Mr. Antonucci is still here. Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. If there isn't any, I would like to entertain a motion for an adverse report.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kamer. All those in favor of an adverse report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Very good, thank you. So that will be an adverse report this evening. Assuming that is passed as an adverse report, we would then file item number 1029. We'll take time on 10, obviously. And I'm going to recommend time on the balance of the agenda. Then moving into the new list of legislation, Ms. Piviano, could you please read in the one item that we do have?
Item number 6 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Summit Medina Business Alliance Incorporated for consulting services to support economic development in the city of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Volleman?
Yes, this is our annual, I should say, contribution towards the Summit Medina Business Alliance. We are one of the partners along with the county and other regional partners. And I think in the past few years, it's been, during the pandemic, we reduced it to $50,000. We have asked for it to go back to the $75,000 range, which was the pre-pandemic number. This helps us, with small business, help throughout Summit Medina County.
Who are the other partners, or is there a?
I can get, the county is one of them. I believe that Medina, either city or county, is another one of the partners. I don't have all that information in front of me. I can get it to you.
Okay. I do see it says 75,000. Yeah, that would, yeah, and okay. Questions or comments? I see that. Yeah, if you can get some more information on this.
Absolutely, we'll get it to you, and if you want to refer it for next week, that would be,
Okay,
that would be good.
yeah. Or we could place on the consent agenda.
Or consent agenda, we'll get you.
Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. And is there a recommendation for consent? However, yeah, if you could get information to the committee, to all of council.
Yep, we'll
in
get all the
reference to this.
partners and, yep.
Yeah, thank you. Is there a recommendation for consent?
Motion for consent.
Motion for consent.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, very good. Consent agenda. It will be pending, awaiting some more information. Thank you, and I believe that's it. That concludes our Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. Thank you.
Our next committee of the day will be the Parks and Recreation Committee. Those committee members are Lombardo, Mosley, Malik, Neal, and Connor, and that committee will begin at 1:45. Again, that's the Parks and Recreation Committee, and it will begin at 1:45. Thank you.